Welcome to day 172 of 66 and 26. It's Thursday. Thursdays are prophets' days. We're back in Ezekiel chapters 28 to 31 today. And at this point in Ezekiel, the prophet is looking beyond the nation of Israel to the nations that are surrounding Israel. God speaks words of judgment to Tyre, Sidon, and Egypt. These are powerful nations that seemed untouchable in Ezekiel's day. Tyre and Sidon were wealthy port cities on the Mediterranean to the north of Israel. They became powerful and rich through international commerce and trade, but their wealth produced in them arrogance. They thought way more of themselves than they should, and the leaders of Tyre began to imagine that their success made them invincible. They were like gods over the oceans. And God exposes their pride and announces their downfall. And then he turns his attention south to Egypt. For centuries, Egypt had been one of the world's greatest superpowers. The dynasties of Egypt stretched back centuries, thousands of years even. Of course, Israel had been rescued from the powerful nation of Egypt and Pharaoh 850 years before Ezekiel. But then there were moments when Israel was looking to Egypt for protection when other enemies threatened Israel. Now, humanly speaking, Egypt appeared invincible, permanent, and secure. But God reminds his people that even the greatest empires are creatures, not the creator. In chapter 31, God points to Assyria, and he likens that nation of the kingdom of Assyria to a towering cedar tree that was majestic over all the nations of the earth. And Assyria had seemed unstoppable until God brought it down and cut down that tree. And if Assyria could fall, Egypt could fall, Israel could fall, Babylon could fall, any nation was subject to God. And still is. Every single nation still subject to God. The message is clear. The Lord is sovereign over all nations, not just Israel, but every king, every economy, every army, every empire is under God's authority. Nations rise and fall by God's command. And notice sins that God condemns also in these chapters. He speaks about arrogance, pride, injustice, violence, dishonest trade. And the Lord cares about how people conduct business, how they treat other people, how they wield power. No nation is beyond God's scrutiny, and no ruler escapes God's judgment. That's the lesson in these chapters. And that's an important reminder to us too in our own day. It's easy for us to become impressed or intimidated by those superpowers, by those with political power, those who have economic strength, who have cultural influence, or we can be intimidated, but we're really impressed and we want to be like them. Israel feared Syria and Babylon, at times Egypt, and they looked to Egypt or these other nations for help. And we face the same temptation. Ezekiel reminds us that every earthly power is temporary. Only God is eternal. The nations will all disappear and God's kingdom will last forever. History belongs to God. That is kind of the lesson that we see here in these chapters. So don't put your trust in armies, in politics, in kings or presidents or markets or military strength or anything like that. Put your trust in the Lord God only.